It's Kristopher Nestle, and I am the production manager at WXXI television station, PBS affiliate in Rochester, New York.
What is my name? Name is Lisa Familietti. My job here at WXXI, my title is technically multimedia producer, but I mostly produce the show Homework Hotline. The other shows that I work on besides Homework Hotline are the Xerox International Rochester Jazz Festival that we have here. I also work from time to time on our show Norman Company, and I'm also a segment producer on Second Opinion.
So a production manager is in charge of everything pre and during the production. So in pre-production, I get with the producers, try to help them conceptualize what they want to do and how that would translate to video on air. I also get with a set designer, come up with ideas for what we want the set to look like. I'm also in charge of making sure the set gets lit properly. As you look at the set I'm on right now, I help input on this set with lighting and the way the backdrop looks and stuff like that. So that's part of my job in pre-production. I also have to assemble the crew for a production in terms of how many camera operators we have. Are we going to use special type of cameras like a jib arm or anything like that? I got to make sure the proper person's on for the proper job. And then during the production, depending, sometimes I'll sit back and I'll oversee the whole thing, make sure put out any fires that might occur during the production, or sometimes I step back in the director's role and I'll direct that production as well.
Well, this is how I describe being a producer. I describe it as being the controller of chaos. But mostly a producer, is a project manager. I hand out different parts of the show and I get them all back and I put the show back together essentially. There's a lot of trust that goes into being a producer because I have to make sure that every crew member is going to be able to do their part. And with being a producer, you're the one who really has to be in charge. Like everybody's going to look at you and be like, well, what do you want to do? What's next? That sort of thing. Where I think a lot of people think that the director is in control, but it's really the producer that's in control.
I decided going to video production, television, because like most boys growing up, I wanted to be an athlete. When I realized that was not going to happen, the next best thing for me was to think, oh, maybe I could be behind the scenes at events, and what better way would that be? There's always television, there's always radio events for sporting events.
So I didn't really know that I wanted to go into TV, I think probably until like 8th or 9th grade. I remember I was home one summer watching trashy TV. I'm pretty sure that I was watching Jerry Springer, or I was watching Sesame Street, go figure, it's PBS. I'm pretty sure I was watching one of those. And I'm just thinking to myself, somebody is telling these people to act this way and to do this. And somebody has to be on that camera operating that. And I don't know who those people are or what they do, but I want to do that. I was like, I want to make trashy TV. But now I make educational programming instead. So I make better TV.
A couple years into my full time, I had a boss that was really good at looking out for me, wanted to have a specific career path for me. So he said, I think you'd be a good technical director, which is the person who physically punches all the sources for a television show. So he made me the lead technical director, so I took it upon myself to learn the switcher as best as I could. I try to learn like all the bells and whistles so I could go to producers and be like, hey, you might want to try this effect for your show. Oh, you're doing this for your show? Maybe this would be a cool thing to do. So then shortly after that, he said, I think it's time for you to start directing. So I started directing shows like Homework Hotline, Need to Know Rochester, progressed into our national show, Second Opinion, which is seen by over 200 stations in PBS markets. And then last year, July, I was promoted to production manager.
I started here as an intern, so I've pretty much have really been at WXXI quite a long time. I mean, before WXXI, I interned at other places, but for a short time, I worked on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I worked on 2 seasons there. So during that time, I left WXXI and I went down to New York City and I worked, and then I came back and then I went back down to do the 2nd season because production for because production for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is only about 6 months out of the year. So I would be down there for 6 months, come back here for 6 months, go back down for 6 months, come back for 6 months.